Hello again. I am Gina Chatton, the Digital Resources Librarian with the West Virginia Library Commission. If you saw me this morning, I'm changing gears a little bit this afternoon to talk about our Special Collections Survey. And it's not just our Special Collections Survey, it is a statewide survey, which I'm going to introduce to you very shortly. But before I do that, I'm just kind of curious if anyone is familiar with, I think we talked about the Internet Archive a little bit this morning, but I don't have a poll to ask. Rather than ask you to respond in the chat, I just want to mention that some of the projects that are similar to what we're going to be talking about today are the Internet Archive, the Digital Public Library of America, or DPLA. There's a slightly older project that I've heard pronounced as NUCMUC, N-U-C-M-C, and I think I actually misspelled that acronym in the survey, and Archive Grid. And what these projects all have in common is that they host collections or collection records from libraries around the country. Among other things, our survey wants to find out what we have statewide, what's already in a site like these in our state, what's not yet in a site like these but could be, and how we can work together to help make that happen. So one big one that I really want to introduce, and I can already tell from a few of the responses to the survey that we've already gotten, the survey's been out about a week now. I think there are about 3 more weeks left in the sort of window that we left open for people to respond. I can already tell that people are moderately familiar with this project, but not really. So I've definitely wanted to take a moment to introduce it. The Digital Public Library of America is a nationwide project that makes, I think someone needs to mute. Okay, good. The Digital Public Library of America makes eligible special collections materials from United States libraries, archives, museums, and cultural institutions available and freely searchable on the web from a single site. And if you are not already familiar with it, I would like to open it for just a second and give you a look at what you have here. Let's see. Okay, this is the website for the Digital Public Library of America, and a sample search, the same thing I searched for this morning in West Virginia Info Depot. Imagine we are still that student doing a project on Walt Whitman. We just kind of want to see what is out there. And if you look, you get results, all different types of things, text, photos, what have you. There are filters on the left, there are moving images, audio, all sorts of different things. But look where they come from. This one came from the University of California. This one is from the National Portrait Gallery, which is a part of the Smithsonian. And if we scroll down, we see National Archives at College Park, Lincoln Financial Foundation. I'm not even familiar with that collection, just a whole lot of different possibilities. And if you open up the result, this is a portrait I really like. You could click this button to view the full item. There's just very basic information about it here. It tells you where it comes from, the Smithsonian Institution, National Portrait Gallery, a whole lot of subject keywords. But when you click the button to open the full item, it sends you to the origin website. So this is the actual Smithsonian Institution website. We are no longer on the Digital Public Library of America site. So the DPLA is it's kind of like a union catalog in a way. If you think of a little bit of an older project, it is a combination of different sources nationwide. And it brings all those records together in a place where a student or just any individual who is interested in a given topic can search them all from one single portal. This collection of special collections nationwide is only one of the things that the DPLA does. Among other things, they are expanding their work with ebooks. There's a link here in the slides, which you can download after the presentation, and you can learn more about that. It's a whole other conversation I would love to talk about sometime. But mainly, their special collections project is powered by hubs, which provide item records to the DPLA from their own collections, from their source site, wherever they live, be it the Smithsonian or your library. Some hubs also provide other services. Excuse me, I have the hiccups today. Okay, next question, what is Digital Virginias? It's getting a little closer to us. It's not quite West Virginia, but you hear Virginia. You notice, however, that it is plural. And Digital Virginias, plural, is a shared service hub for the DPLA that is created by institutions from Virginia and West Virginia. Let's see, the University of Virginia is the administrator of this hub, and West Virginia University is our regional hub. The state is a part of Digital Virginias through WVU, thanks to the tireless work of Jessica McMillan. And I cannot emphasize how big that is. That is an enormous step, and we are very, very, very lucky to already be a part of a hub. The Library Commission and Marshall University are also going to participate in recruiting partners in the second phase of this project, which is what we are hopefully starting to kind of move toward right now with the information that we learn in this survey. And it will potentially in the future expand from just digital collection items into finding aids through possibly Virginia Heritage, which is a site I would also like to show you just so that you can be a little more familiar with it if you have not seen it before. And this is a site that lets you search finding aids. And if you're not super familiar with finding aids, I'm actually going to talk about what those are in a minute. The short version is their inventories of special collections, but let's see, I think I'm not sharing the window I think I am. There we go. All right, so for instance, I'm going to do just a search for someone who's really big in Virginia history, Thomas Jefferson. Yes, please continue. And you see records of different collections in the state of Virginia that deal with that subject. So I'm going to switch back quickly. Let's see. So, oops, there we go. Anyway, just another note is that the collections that are in collections that are from Digital Virginias in the public library, let me start again. The collections that are from Digital Virginia's participants in the Digital Public Library of America are also linked from the West Virginia History and Genealogy page on West Virginia Info Depot, in case you want to take a look at these later for yourself. I believe it is the second link down. If you click that where it says Digital Virginias, it takes you to the DPLA with a Digital Virginias filter. And it looks like the first ones that come up at the top are University of Virginia Library, but you can also do specific searches for West Virginia collections. You can use the filters on the left. I believe one is for contributing institutions. So West Virginia University Libraries, this one right off the top. But if you are really only interested in our collections, you can go straight there. That is one of the beautiful features of the DPLA. So, let's see. Oops. I'm having trouble with PowerPoint today. So the survey itself, the new version of it from 2020 is at this link, and I am going to paste try to paste this link into the chat box. If you have not already seen it, I am practically to the point where I want to tattoo it on my face to make sure everyone gets the link and participates in the survey. -1. This should be the link if you do not already have it that will take you to the survey where you can participate. And the survey and its results may serve many purposes. It is primarily a way for us to gather information for, among other things, our participation in the DPLA. It's also a step toward a state portal to search West Virginia special collections, archival finding aids, digital materials, possibly more. It could be a way for us to gather information to help with grants, digitization projects, programming and promotion of your collections, really open to all ideas. But for right now, we just are trying to gather all of the information that we can so that we know what is out there. We did this a few years ago in 2015. I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's been a while. The world has changed a bit since 2015. So far, we have just reached out to state libraries with the email that went out last week. We're working on reaching out to other types of organizations And this survey should be considered a first round. There will be follow-ups, whether or not which follow-up that you get kind of depends on your answer to the survey, because the questions in next round surveys and possibly interviews will be more detailed and depend on the collections that you actually have. So I wanted to talk a minute about the 2015 survey results, just to let you know where we're coming from, sort of show you how we got to where we are now. In 2015, 41 institutions in the state responded, and of those 41, 33 reported holding special collections. Of those, 11 reported already hosting some form of digital collections, and 14 reported having finding aids for their collections. Of those, 1 reported plans to create finding aids or create more finding aids in the next 5 years, and 14 reported plans to create or create new digital collections in the next 5 years. So again, let's go forward in time to 2020, the new survey. It is definitely time for an update. A lot has changed. I would like to encourage libraries to respond to this survey even if they do not have special collections. And you're very lucky if you do not, in that you only have to answer 3 questions: your institution or your library name, your own name, and just check no on the question, do you have special collections or not? So then we'll know. We will have a record that we've reached out to that library this time around, and then if things change over the next few years, we can note that we have an increase. If you do have special collections, the survey will take a little bit longer. There are a lot more questions. SurveyMonkey tells us that it'll take about 10 minutes, give or take, depending on how much detail you want to go in. And there are 25 maximum questions. I don't think it's even possible to get all 25 questions just because of the way that the questions branch off and kind of a choose your own adventure style. Like, if you do not have finding aids, then you're going to skip ahead past the section that talks about finding aids. If you don't have digital collections, you would just say no, and then you won't see any of the following questions specific to that. Again, this is considered kind of a first round survey, so we won't ask for a ton of detail yet, but in the next round, whatever form that may take, that's where we'll get into more detail about the types of materials you have. If you have digital collections, like what kind of file formats, how much space does it take up, all those sort of nitty-gritty details. And since the survey went out a week ago, I've already gotten a lot of questions, and there are a few questions that I anticipate getting. If you haven't taken it yet, don't worry, there is still plenty of time, but hopefully the next few slides will answer some of those questions in advance, and I will be happy to take questions at the end of this slideshow as well. The first thing I want to bring up before I get into specific questions is if you got the invite a week ago, there was a problem with it if it came from one of the listservs. If it went to your email directly, I'm not entirely sure if you could tell that, but the button would have been fine if it went to your direct email. But if you got it from the directors listserv or the Library Association listserv, there was a problem with the way SurveyMonkey sent out that link, and a lot of people were typing over each other's responses. So I'll spare you the technical details. I apologize. I've now learned a big lesson about how SurveyMonkey works. When you send the email directly from SurveyMonkey, it does not use the link that we created. It generates one that is unique to the email address. So if you have not taken the survey yet, just use this link instead of the button, and that will solve all of your problems. If you ever do go into the survey and you see someone else's answers, let me know, and don't type over the answers, because you probably are really typing over someone else's answers. Unfortunately, that was a really scary thing that happened last week. But if you do have that problem, let me know immediately so we can figure out what is going on. But this link should get you there. You should theoretically not have any problems with other people's answers. So one common question that I am getting is this collection that we have, or is this item, considered a special collection? And my answer to that is, if in doubt, go ahead and add it. We don't need a ton of detail at this point. A brief description will be fine. Just sort of let us know that it's there, and then we can figure out later kind of which direction we want to go with it in the future, if it is considered something that can go into one of these repositories because they do have rules on what they will accept, then we'll know. It's better to know that we have this thing and not need it than not to know that we have it and then need or have the opportunity to share it later but not have the information. So another question is, I already submitted the survey, but I need to change or add something. Can I do that? And the answer is yes. I have set up the survey in SurveyMonkey so that people who have submitted it theoretically can go back in and update their survey after it is submitted. I have not done that from the user end, so if this does not work for you for some reason, just start a new survey. Don't worry about duplications, just make sure that your name and your organization is in there if you start a new one fresh, and we can match them up when we take down the results. Just make sure that we know that it's you. Be sure to put your institution and your own name there so that we're not left with blanks for that. Let's see. Excuse me. And the question that I mentioned earlier that I will address later, what is a finding aid? If you have special collections but you're not familiar with this term, it's kind of an archival term. And a short, not entirely accurate answer, but enough to get by, is that it is an inventory of an archival collection. There is a longer, more correct answer at this link from bates.edu. I'm not going to open that one here. When you can download the slides after the presentation, you can go here. It is a great website. It actually breaks down the part of a finding aid and kind of describes what each one is for. But I will open up this sample finding aid from the Society of American Archivists, just to give you a very quick view of what like a full-fledged finding aid looks like. Okay, looks like I'm sharing that window now. This site gives you a sample finding aid and it annotates each section to explain what you're seeing. There's a lot of sort of introductory information at the top of a finding aid, which talks about the creator, where it came from, who made it, how much stuff there is, kind of a generic description, language. This is all, it's shown in kind of a big page of text, although this is considered data. It just doesn't look like MARC format or metadata. It's the version that you'll see on the web is made readable, but there is data, usually data behind this. A history of the collection, the scope of the collection, and there's more about dates. And when you really get down into the nitty-gritty, it lists boxes and file folders, and some get into a lot of detail and list individual items, some don't. Some are very sparse. And if you do not have that to that extent, I would not worry about it. What I'm asking people to do is, if you have something that is vaguely formatted as an inventory, even if it only exists as like a printed binder full of sheets on your shelf and is not even in Word doc format, please answer yes. And we'll get into more detail in the next round, but really that is still important because that means that you do have an inventory of that collection. There are a lot of collections out there, even at really big libraries and universities, which don't even have that, especially if they're pretty newly donated. So that kind of lets us know what stage your collection is in. Let's see. Oops, sorry. I keep skipping ahead and back on my slides today. Okay, last question. What if we have a bunch of collections, too many to put in the box? And if you are a big university with a humongous archive or a whole lot of special collections, I would not stress about putting things into a whole lot of detail in this first round of survey. I looked at the 2015 survey, and actually I think some library, I don't remember who, had listed each individual collection, and that's great if you have the time to do that, and if the space in SurveyMonkey will let you, that's a step ahead. But really, I think it's enough to just sort of very briefly describe what your holdings are like, kind of the types of materials that you have. If you do have a few separate collections, it's good if they have titles to go ahead and tell us what they are. If you already have a listing somewhere of all your collections, like if you have so many that you have them in some kind of archival system that's a database, if you can give us the link to that, that would probably solve what we need to answer here. But essentially, this is just sort of an introduction so that we know what kind of collections you have so that we can kind of decide which direction to go in our next survey or interview with you and your library. So just sort of a brief description, not a ton of detail is necessary at this point. What we plan to do with the results, the possibilities are kind of endless. The more we know, the more we can do. Our main goal is to figure out next steps toward that sort of state digital library or catalog of special collections. We really would like to see a statewide portal searchable by state libraries and librarians and their patrons. This will help us contribute records to Digital Virginias through WVU for collections that qualify for the Digital Public Library of America. Possibly also Virginia Heritage. They're talking about changing the name. They are, I'm not entirely sure where that stands right now, but I know that Virginia Heritage was kind of in talks with Digital Virginias about partnering on sort of their next steps moving forward, and maybe other national portals. Like I mentioned at the beginning, there are a lot more than just the DPLA. There's Archives Grid is an OCLC project. Internet Archive, I think a lot of people are familiar with. Even if you're not familiar with Internet Archive through that route, I believe they have the Wayback Machine, which kind of has archived a lot of older websites. And then there are others. There may even be some that I don't even know about. This is a pretty common thing that people are trying to figure out how to do lately. So our next steps, the next steps for you after you take the survey are just to work with us when we follow up to find out more about your collections in whatever form it takes, possibly more surveys, possibly I pick up the phone and call you, or someday in a hopeful future we might be able to like meet and be in the same space together and kind of look at collections and talk about them. If you are interested in doing more with your collections, like if you have collections that you would like to digitize, or if you're interested in applying for grants or things like that, let us know. And once we know that, we can share information. Like if we know somebody else who's kind of working on the same thing, maybe we can put you in contact with them. The presentation this morning on newspaper digitization was one example. They were actively looking for partners in that project. So if you also are working on newspaper digitization, we can kind of connect the two organizations to let each other know that you have kind of the same goals. Ideally, the next step will also involve some training and some tutorials on different projects that you can do with your special collections, ways to promote them, and opportunities also for the libraries in the state that have them to participate in these projects and provide input and feedback on kind of how these move forward. And that's really kind of, oops, sorry, the survey itself. It's pretty basic at this point. It's kind of up to you to go to that link and fill out the survey. If you would like to download these slides, it's the same link. I don't know if any of you were at my presentation this morning, but it's an is.gd link shortener. The hard part to remember is WVLA Special 2020. At the end of that, if you go there, you can download these slides directly. Before I start into questions, I also wanted to let you know I plan on attending the digital roundtable tomorrow, and I told Lisa I would put in a plug for it. So come sit with us at our virtual roundtable tomorrow afternoon at 2. And let's see if anyone has any questions. You can also unmute yourself. I think I can see the faces. Let's see. Answered no, because I didn't see a way to say that we are planning a special collection. Oh, I see. Okay. Yes, you can email me with what you are planning in the future. I believe that's Catherine. What you're planning in the future, so that you'll be contacted in the future, definitely. Maybe you should do the survey. That is the situation I didn't think of when I was building the survey. But if you do not currently have special collections and you will in the future, just email me and we will keep a record of that as well. Our former newspaper, is that considered a special collection? I would, like I said, if in doubt, fill it out. I would say so. I think local newspapers are always something that are of interest, and there are a lot of projects out there, a lot of support for newspaper and yearbook projects seem to be two really popular things that there seem to be a lot of supports for those projects. I don't think I've taken a breath for a while. Is there anyone else? Okay, for any statewide initiative, will you be developing metadata standards for items in the collection? There are a lot of possibilities for that. It kind of depends on what, if any, what any description standards that are already being used, and what are the standards of any projects that we're trying to go into. For example, the DPLA has a metadata schema. They have a lot of rules that the records that we give them have to follow. And there are a lot of ways to achieve that. So that's sort of the next, one of the things that we're going to try to find out more details about, how you describe your materials, if you have any description yet, in sort of the next round of surveys. If that, let me know, if David, if that answered your question, or if you have more questions kind of branching off that. Our West Virginia rooms have a great deal of special one-of-a-kind materials. Like I said, if in doubt, fill it out. Are you looking to digitize these collections? Right now we are information gathering. I think we are mostly trying to, oh, I hear a microphone. Is someone speaking? Or just bumping your microphone? Okay. It is possibility. Right now we're just information gathering and trying to find out maybe who has already digitized collections that are out there. Even if the collections are not digital, we'd still like a record of the collections so that they can kind of all go in the portal, just so that people are aware that they are there. Thank you. But John, definitely, if like I said, that was a problem with the survey that someone identified earlier. If you do not currently have special collections and you think you will in the future, definitely reach out, because that first question where it says no will immediately kick you to the end of the survey. But if you have collections, one of the questions on the survey is, do you plan to digitize in the next 5 years? I think that's a good place in the survey. You could say yes, even if you don't have hard and fast plans, and just let us know that we would really like to, if we can find the way to do it. Let's see. Do I have any other questions?
I'm going to throw out a comment, Gina.
Yes.
This information has come in really handy throughout the past 5 years. When we get phone calls from reporters doing stories, or individuals looking for different types of information, since we're in the same building as the archives, this survey allows us to point potential customers to your libraries and to your collections. So I would agree with Gina, when in doubt, fill it out, because this has really allowed us to guide people to your library and to the various collections you have.
We also share, currently we have the 2015 results online on our website, so other libraries can see this as well if they get a patron who is asking for something. I know that I answered a call a few months ago from someone looking for information on an ancestor from Wheeling, and we were able to kind of direct them to some things, just because I had looked at that survey and I knew that the I believe Ohio County website had quite a lot. So. Any other questions? It's very quiet. Well, like I said, if you think of more questions 5 minutes after we leave the meeting, or 5 weeks later, or tomorrow afternoon, just definitely reach out. And I think the survey is officially open for another 3 weeks. I think a lot of people have already answered it though. I think we already have more responses than we did in 2015. So I was pleasantly surprised. Everyone really jumped for it. Have a new person. have all the Zoom faces over on the left, so. All right, I think that's all I have. I'm going to actually put the link to the survey in the chat again, just in case anyone has forgotten. I don't think I could let any, whoops, sorry, wrong link. That was my answer to a question from the last presentation that oh, crap, hang on. As the last presentation, someone asked if we had any techniques for arguments, and that was mine. So again, surveymonkey.com/r/WVSPCOLL 2020-1. And that's that.